In the book of Matthew, chapter 24, starting in verse 15, it talks about the abomination of desolation. It says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of the house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And pray ye that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." So what is the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet? Let's go over and read some verses from Daniel here, the book of Daniel. So some references to this could be Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, where it says, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." Also, in Daniel chapter 11, verse 31, which is over here, it says, "And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice. And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Okay, and then in Daniel chapter 12, verse 11, it says, "And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. So, lots of people interpret this, the abomination of desolation, as the time when the Jewish people stopped doing daily sacrifices in the temple, which happened a little bit after Jesus's ministry around the siege of Jerusalem, which was in AD 70. The Roman Titus sacked Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, and they don't do a daily sacrifice. Jews don't do a daily sacrifice of animals anymore. So the sanctuary in the temple, it's the destruction of the temple. Some modern day revelation referencing this talks a little bit more about judgments on the wicked in general. So for example, in Doctrine and Covenants, section 84, I'm holding a little newborn baby here, and she's a little bit squirmy, so hopefully she doesn't interrupt us too much. That's section 84, verses, we'll read verse 114. There's lots of verses in section 84. And section 84 talks a lot about the end of the world. But in 114 it says, "Nevertheless, let the bishop go into the city of New York, and also to the city of Albany, and also to the city of Boston, and warn the people of those cities with the sound of the gospel, with a loud voice of the desolation, and utter abolishment which await them if they reject these things." And then in verse 117 it says, "And verily I say unto you, as the rest of my servants, go ye forth, as your circumstances shall permit, to your several callings, unto the great and notable cities and villages, reproving the world in righteousness of all their unrighteous and ungodly deeds, and setting forth clearly the understandingly of the desolation of abomination in the last days." So here we're talking about an abomination that makes desolate. Also here, I'm going to go over to section 88 here, verses 84 and 85, where it says, "Therefore tarry ye and labor diligently, that ye may be perfected in your ministry to go forth among the Gentiles, for the last time as many as the mouth of the Lord shall name, to bind up the law and seal up the testimony, and to prepare the saints for the hour of judgment which is to come, that their souls may escape the wrath of God and the desolation of abomination which awaits the wicked, both in this world and in the world to come. Verily I say unto you, let those who are not the first elders continue in the vineyard until the mouth of the Lord shall call them, for their time is not yet come. Their garments are not clean from the blood of this generation. So here you're talking about abominations that make desolate. And so you can interpret this several ways. You can say that this is simply referring to wickedness in general, causing problems, right? In the book of Daniel, is very clearly tied to the sanctuary and the temple. And the abomination seemed to be the defiling of the temple that they're talking about. In the Doctrine and Covenants, it seems a little bit more general, but if you look at it in history, the Nauvoo Temple, not long after the Nauvoo Temple is destroyed and defiled in more modern history, then you had the Civil War, and you had quite a lot of desolation that happened on the American continent after they defiled the Nauvoo Temple. So you could say that the abomination of desolation refers to destruction that await people, whether it's the Jews and the Israelites in the year 80, 70, or it's the United States, people in the United States in the around the 1860s, 1840s to 1860s. It's the desolation that happens after the defilement of the temple. And so people should look out for a temple, the temples being defiled, being destroyed, being sacked, and take that as a sign that maybe you should leave. The saints were able to do that. They actually left as the Nauvoo Temple was about to be destroyed and defiled. They left to go to what was then Mexican territory, and they largely sat out the Civil War and escaped the desolation. I don't know about the Jews in the 80s, 70s, if the ones who were following the leaders of the church at the time were able to escape the desolation associated with Titus sacking the temple. But the desolation is caused by abominations, and the desolation happens after the destruction of the temple. So that's kind of how I interpret that. That's how I link these verses in the Doctrine and Covenants with those in Daniel and those in Matthew. That if people in your area are destroying temples, it might be a good idea to leave that area.